Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live after the Warriors suffer a 102-97 defeat to the Minnesota Timberwolves at Chase Center in Game 3 on Saturday night. Man, there's a lot of emotions going through that game and after that game. First of all, really proud of the effort. Thought the Warriors were hugely gallant. Can't really fault the effort too much. Now, were there times where there were some loose balls the Warriors could have tried to get to and be better in those kind of areas? Maybe, but that's part of the game. Thought the effort was really there. Ultimately, it's just a huge missed opportunity because that was a game they really, really could have won. And I continue to be not overly impressed by Minnesota, to be honest. And I think that's why Steph was probably so devastated or is so devastated with his hamstring injury is that this team just doesn't feel very good to me. This Timberwolves team, I'm not impressed. I really am not. Now, Ant got going in the second half, and maybe that's a bit of an ominous sign for the Warriors. Moving forward, the fact he had 26 of his 36 points in the second half, maybe he's found a rhythm now. Maybe, he can carry that forward in the series and might be curtains for the Warriors without Steph potentially, which, again, this is just a heartbreaking loss because you probably should have won that game. You're up 5, I think, early fourth quarter, and you just weren't able to execute offensively down the stretch, and we'll get into that. So really, really proud of the effort, really gallant performance from the Warriors, but ultimately a really big missed opportunity. Just to mention a positive really quickly, Jonathan Kaminga, I think just clearly the best performance of his career in any game throughout his first 4 years. In terms of meaningful playoff basketball, I mean, his 18 points in game 2 were an equal playoff career high, and he just smashes through that and has 30 on 11 of 18 shooting. Really proud of JK for, I tweeted out in the first half, the career arc of this guy in terms of the ups and downs that he's gone through throughout the first 4 years is quite remarkable, and it looked like it was completely over and he was out of the playoff rotation. You thought, okay, there's no way he's coming back. And I guess the one silver lining from this Steph injury is that JK has got the opportunity again. I was really shocked that he didn't actually start in this game. Steve went to Trace Jackson Davis. Instead, Trace was okay, but didn't play a whole lot. And, JK comes off the bench, plays 36 minutes, again, 30 points, just a massive, massive performance from him. I thought his defense, particularly in the first half, we've been talking about whether the Warriors could keep JK engaged with these, he went 6 out of an 8-game span out of the rotation, and you thought, okay, is he just done? Is he mentally going to be checked out now? No, that was a guy in the first half who I thought was as engaged as I've ever seen him. He had a closeout block on a 3-point attempt in the corner from Mike Conley. I think he blocked Ant one time at the rim. His defense, I thought, was just as tremendous as his offense. And so to be able to get that performance from him, for playoff Jimmy to kind of be activated, ran out of gas there late in the fourth quarter. Again, we'll get to it. To not take advantage and capitalize on 63 combined points from Jimmy and JK, it hurts. It hurts. And I wonder if that felt like their big punch. That felt like, okay, we need to get one more to try and at least force game 6, try and give Steph a chance back. And this was their real big, not knockout blow, obviously, but a real big haymaker. Try and land this one, okay? And they put themselves in a position to be able to do so, and ultimately didn't come up with it. So it's really disappointing. The other thing that is, and I think you guys, as I get into this, I think you guys that have watched or listened to me quite frequently over the course of this season and perhaps going back to last season as well. I'm pretty chill on some of the officiating. I don't think I like to necessarily point to the officiating as huge factors in the game unless it's blatantly obvious. And I just thought my biggest issue with the refereeing and officiating any sport is incredibly difficult. Don't get me wrong; it's not something I want to be doing. So I have sympathy for officials, right? But my biggest issue is when you actually get a chance to review the call, and I still think you get it wrong. And to me, Draymond's fourth foul in that third quarter was perhaps the difference in the game. And at that point, so Julius Randle drives. Draymond's moving his feet. And even if you want to say he was moving and not set, you can't extend your arm like that. To me, Julius Randle, and that's why I think the Warriors review is okay, even if Draymond's still moving, Julius Randle extends his arm out, right? You cannot do that. To me, that's an offensive foul. And I just think for the Warriors to review that and for the refs not to overturn it, I just thought that was perhaps the difference in the game. Because for starters, it means the Warriors are out of challenges. It means it's Draymond's fourth foul. The third one he picked up was a bit controversial and contentious as well, with the one on Gobert, which maybe could have been an offensive foul as well. It took Draymond out of the game. At that point, it was nearly 30 minutes through the game, nearly 2.5 quarters. The Timberwolves at that exact point had 50 points. 50 points through essentially 30 minutes. In the last 18 minutes, they scored 52. I just thought Draymond was terrible offensively in this game. Absolutely terrible. Like, he threw the ball all over the joint. He was throwing passes to Kaminga as if he was 20 foot tall on a couple of occasions. He was 1 of 4 from the floor, 2 points. He was terrible offensively, but defensively, we know he's the leader of the team, and defensively, I thought he was doing a terrific job. Okay. And I thought some of his help defense at the rim and stuff like that was just fantastic. And the Timberwolves were being absolutely suffocated. They had 40 points in the first half. Ant was doing nothing, couldn't get anything rolling. Again, the Timberwolves had 50 points through the first 30 minutes of the game, basically. And then once Draymond went off, it felt like the whole paint just opened up. And Ant suddenly had a lane to the rim on plenty of occasions, and there was just no help defense there. And Minnesota started to get going a bit offensively. And then by the fourth quarter, they started making some jump shots, and they just started feeling a lot more confident, I think, in much more rhythm. And again, like 50 points through the first 30 minutes, Draymond has to exit the game, and you score 52 in the next 18 minutes. Like, I don't know. That just pisses me off. It does, because I just don't think I think that was an offensive foul. I don't think it was a block. And the fact that, like, I can get it in time, you calling that a block, I can get it. But the fact you get to go and watch the replay and then still don't overturn it, I don't know. It's just frustrating. Really frustrating. It's one of those kind of things where the Warriors without Steph, like, they don't have any room for error. And they made some mistakes in this game, particularly, again, Draymond with his turnovers. He had 5 turnovers. Some of the stuff was pretty poor, but that's one of those things that goes against the Warriors. And you just wonder if, Draymond doesn't pick up his 4th foul in that moment, maybe the game's a lot different. I don't know. The Warriors probably still could have won the game from there. I'm not saying the Warriors, they were absolutely gone by that point. Like, they were still up when Draymond picked up his 4th foul. But, there's that. And then he comes back, and then he has 2 more quick fouls in midway through the 4th quarter, has to exit the game with 4.5 minutes left. At that point, Minnesota's still only up 2. So the Warriors are still, in it. I don't know. This is the kind of swings and roundabouts of playoff basketball. The Warriors had some things go their way. Like, Randall had 5 points. Like, he had the layup and then the 3, both of which were still in his hands with split second, 0 point. Well, they were both in his hands at the shot clock, but if there was an extra 0.2 on the shot clock, he's got them off, and that's an extra 5 points Minnesota could have got. But I don't know, the officiating on that Draymond 4th foul, I just thought was pretty poor. Anyway, I'm going to get into some of your guys' comments here. I don't know. It's it's tough to talk about because it's just it's a performance that you can't really be mad with. I thought they played reasonably well. They made some mistakes, but this is a pretty limited team without Steph. Obviously, you're missing your best player. Like, it's hard to expect complete perfection. And I thought they battled really hard, and they put themselves in a position to win the game. And to not come up with it is very disappointing. Thendek says, this is on Dre, stupid turnovers in the foul baiting. I want him gone. Priscilla says, if Draymond didn't foul out, we would have won. No one wants Draymond gone. Just calm down. Thendek says, this loss really hurts. We literally could have won the game. Yep. Yeah, I'm struggling to think of one that hurts more. I mean, I suppose the Clippers won in the regular season finale. But, even that one, it's like, okay, well, the Warriors still have a chance in the play-in tournament. This one, I mean, they still got a chance in Game 4, but it makes Game 4 a must-win. And I just thought this was their real... Like, Golden State didn't play great. I just come out of this game thinking, okay, Minnesota, I think, could play a lot better. And maybe what Ant did in the second half we'll see more of. And for the Warriors, I don't know what the upside is out of this. Like, yes, they had some turnovers, but they had far less turnovers than Minnesota. I think Minnesota had 20, 21 turnovers. Warriors had 14. Like, Jimmy could have been better in the last 8 minutes, but ultimately you got 33 points out of him. Kaminga goes for 30. Like, that's an amazing result. Pods could have been a lot better. He was 1 of 10 shooting from the floor, really disappointing. The final possession of the half pissed me off. The Warriors had kind of all the momentum up to, and then Pods could have given the ball to Jimmy to try and make a play on the final possession, and then just takes it himself and then comes up with like an air ball. Some of that stuff really annoys me when, he's clearly the third, when Steph's out there, he's clearly the third guy at best. And, now that if Kaminga's out there, he's still the third guy because the ball should be going through Butler or Kaminga. And, some of this stuff, there's a bit of over dribbling. I still think there's some over dribbling with Buddy Hield, although he had that sick cross on Dante and hit the 3, which was crazy. Kind of saw people on the timeline being like, who said Buddy Hield shouldn't dribble? That was a crazy play. And when, they started making some threes, like, got to remember, the Warriors did not make a single 3-pointer in the first half and still had the lead. They only took 5 threes in the first half at all. So, it was a very weird defensive-minded first half, but it suited the Warriors. It actually suited Golden State, I thought, and the guys on the broadcast kind of said it at halftime, like, this is the game the Warriors want to play in order to win. And it just felt like the game shifted when Draymond picked up his 4th foul, because then once Draymond's out, what the Warriors want to do defensively, they just can't, right? You don't have that combined IQ and physical presence that Draymond provides. Like, it's both. It's the IQ and the defensive smartness, I suppose, if that's a word. And it's also like some of the help defense stuff on Ant and, on some of these drives. Like, I don't know, like the help and recover stuff from Draymond. Again, I thought he was terrible offensively, but I just thought defensively he was really good through the first 2.5 quarters. That 4th foul really hurt. Thanik says JK needs to start the next game. He gets in the paint, played really well. I think really well is an understatement. I thought he was magnificent. I was so happy for him. I thought it was the best game of his career. It was weird, like, I don't know. I thought late in the game there wasn't, particularly in the last 2 or 3 minutes, there wasn't enough Jimmy. And maybe there was a bit too much Kaminga, but then he also hit 2 threes, which probably didn't really count in the final minute because Minnesota had already kind of gained control. But yeah, I just thought Kaminga was excellent. It's a real shame. Like, it's a real shame the Warriors lost this game, because if they'd won and Kaminga had that performance, you'd be like, wow, okay, this is really something. And that's the thing. I don't want the loss to take the shine away from his performance, but it kind of does a little bit. Like, if the Warriors had won that game and Kaminga was a huge part of it, then that'd be a huge talking point, not just among the Warrior fan base, but among the entire NBA fraternity, I suppose. And yeah, for the Warriors not to win, it kind of takes away a little bit from that, which is disappointing. So Nexer also says Pod shouldn't be playing more minutes than JK. Doesn't make sense. Well, there's a lack of I think there's a lack of guard options. Pat Spencer out of the rotation in this game. I mean, JK still played 36, so I don't think it's necessarily a huge issue. It's hard to get him up to Pods as 39 when he's not starting the game or the second half either. I was surprised at that. At the end of the day, like, he came off the bench and still played really, really well. So I think we've always said this about JK. It's not necessarily the starting thing, but it's him playing big minutes, and that's what he got in this game. Priscilla says Pods and JK play different roles. Just unlucky Pods kept missing floaters. Some of those shots around the rim where he kind of drives and Gobert's hanging back and he has those floaters from just inside the free throw line or whatever. He's got to make a couple of those. Really, really disappointing. He's 1 of 10. I thought he still impacted the game okay. I thought he was still stood up defensively, had 8 rebounds, moved the ball okay at times. But again, that one on the final possession, the first half, pissed me off. But anyway, I thought he was still okay, and this is what he can do. He can impact the game in other areas, even when his shot's not falling. But ultimately, the Warriors, they needed a couple of those shots to fall. He was 1 of 10. Not great. Thanek says Jimmy didn't score for 8 minutes in the 4th. That's Minnesota defense and him missing layups. Yeah, missed a few that he should have made. There was one where he had Randall behind him, and he just I feel like he tried to draw the contact instead of just making the layup. That was dumb. There's one he missed a lefty over Gobert, I think. Look, it's hard to be too critical of Jimmy because he was the dominant force in this game through the first 3 quarters. He really was, and I thought at the end of the third, I thought this was the special Jimmy Butler performance the Warriors needed. Like, this was and this is why I said this is why it's so disappointing, because it feels like Jimmy was really like Jimmy was in the midst of delivering a statement Jimmy Butler playoff performance to get the Warriors the win. He was supported by Kaminga in tremendous fashion. Buddy Hield stepped up a little bit in the second half. Felt like most things kind of went the Warriors' way in order to win this game without Steph. And again, unfortunately, some of the officiating staff and Jimmy just not quite stepping up down the stretch. It must be said, like you can be pleased with his performance overall, but unfortunately, in the last 8 minutes, he missed some shots he probably otherwise would have made. And I thought he probably just looked gassed. I thought there were times where he just didn't come and get the ball. Like I was like there yelling. I was like, come and stop standing in the corner. Come and get the ball. Okay. I want the ball in your hands. I don't want the ball in Buddy Hield's hands. Kaminga's been great, but I don't really want the ball in his hands down the stretch either in a clutch situation. Like it's got to be in Jimmy Butler's hands. And I just thought, he looked tired, unfortunately, and I don't blame him for that. And he's dealing with the pelvic contusion and whatnot, but he just needed to be better in that moment, and he wasn't. And it could be something you look back on and think that's the Warrior season right there. Empire says Pods doesn't need to start. Dre or Jimmy can handle the ball. Pods is bringing the team down. Give his minutes to TJD. Well, Pods is going to take threes at least, and he's going to be somewhat more of a scoring threat than TJD is in terms of not creating his own own plays necessarily. But look, hopefully he can step up in game 4. He's obviously, it's hard to be much worse scoring the ball, shooting the ball wise than he was in this game. Again, 1 of 10. Made that one, was it early fourth quarter or late third quarter or whatever it was, where he was wide open, kind of in transition, and finally got one to go from beyond the arc. But the real issue, I suppose, in this game was, you have him, Draymond, GP2, and Loon. I think they combined 5 of 22 from the floor or something like that. I think they were, or 4 of 22. I believe, and that's tough. And I suppose that's the thing in game 4 is like, okay, well, that's the one positive is that you should get more. I know that those guys aren't scorers as such, but you should be more. You should be better than that. Ultimately, like Draymond's 1 of 4, Pods is 1 of 10. That's 2 of 14. Looney 1 of 4, 3 of 18. GP2 1 of 4. It's 4 of 22. 4 of 22. Pretty ugly. Priscilla says TJD is slower than Pods. Yeah, I'm not sure. Pods is a guard. TJD is a big man. I'm not sure. I know they're technically starting TJD in place of Steph in this game, but I think Pods is, you're just gonna have to continue investing in him. I don't think there's any alternative to me that makes sense. You just and it's not just investing about for this series and saying that, okay, if we just hopefully he can play through these mistakes and get better as the series progresses, but ultimately this is also a very big learning experience for him in the long term, and just hopefully making him a better player. And I know it's difficult to say when you're emphasizing the remaining prime of whatever Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond have got left, but part of this is going to be a huge development factor, and hopefully next postseason or whatever, that Pods is in a much better situation, a much better player to be able to perform in these moments. So Lucky Jelly says, I hope we can take game 4 so we don't fall too behind without Stephen Curry. Yeah, well, I mean, he's not going to come back till game 6. And that's what it's about. And Ant said it in the when with GP2 marked up. Ant said, you guys are just trying to extend the series to get it to 6 to give Steph a chance, which is, everyone knows it. Everyone, that's what we're doing. The crazy thing about this is, like, if you'd won this game and gone up 2-1, then maybe there's a legitimate chance you could win game 4 and go up 3-1. And that's just such, game 3 just feels like game 3 when it's 1-1 just feels like such a huge swing game. And, the Warriors got it against the Rockets, and they got game 4 and they went up 3-1. And that was just obviously such a decisive advantage. Yes, the Rockets came back to force the game 7, but Golden State ultimately got it done. And I don't know. It just, I don't know how much optimism I have heading into game 4. I just thought they really fought hard for this one. Thought they just got some things that working in their favor. Again, Kaminga, the biggest one. Like, is Kaminga going to come out and have 30? Right? Is Jimmy going to come out and be much better than he was in this game? I don't know. Like, Ant doing what he did in the second half, being a young player, it kind of, that feels a little bit more sustainable. The Randall piece of it, maybe he can be a little bit worse from a Warrior perspective. Had a triple-double in this game. I don't know. I'm not overly impressed by Minnesota. I'm really not. And that's what makes this really frustrating is that you look at Steph getting injured. The Warriors, I think, could have easily won this series. And I don't want to say that in past tense as if, the series is already over, but I feel like the Warriors could have won. I feel like the Warriors could be definitely up 2-1 now if Steph didn't get injured, and maybe even 3-0. Like, who knows? And it's a real shame because then you look at the other series and Denver are 2-1 up on OKC, and you're like, okay, OKC won 68 games or whatever in the 64 games, whatever it was. Was it 68? Whatever. However many games they won, it was a bloody crap ton in the regular season. But are they actually that good? They might be gettable as well. So all of a sudden, like, there's a legit pathway to get through to the NBA Finals. And then even in the East, I know Boston won today, but they're 2-1 down on the Knicks, and the Cavs are 2-1 down on the Pacers. And it just feels like it's really, really open right now. And I just think that's part of the devastation for Steph, is that he actually would look around the league. Like, we know how smart he is. We know how much he, looks at other series and other players and stuff like that. And I think he would probably look at this and think to himself, hey, if I didn't get injured, there's a legit pathway to winning another championship here. It sounds wild. Like, that this team, who I think is a fundamentally, like, it's a flawed roster, right? I think the roster's flawed. I don't think they're necessarily a championship team, but the way the cookie's crumbling a little bit, the way the pieces are falling into place, it feels like they could almost steal one. Like, it feels like almost like 2022, where it's like that team maybe didn't feel necessarily like a championship team either. But again, like, things just fell into place and they played well when they needed to. It kind of feels the same again. And that's what makes this really, really disappointing, is that I don't think Minnesota are that good. The league's kind of opening up a little bit, and Steph's just got injured at the worst possible time. Lucky Jelly says, I did like Jonathan Kaminga today. He's getting his confidence back. We got his confidence back in game 2, and this was just an extension of that. Easily the biggest positive from the game. And again, it's kind of really disappointing that you've got to talk about his positive performance while also kind of mentioning, well, the Warriors lost the game. Like, it's hard to be too positive on anything when the Warriors ultimately lost, if that makes sense. Then Nick says, Lakers made the Wolves look really good, but if we had Steph, we are winning in 5. Mr. MRA Space lost the 5-point lead in the fourth and was outscored by 9 in the fourth. I blame it on cursed substitutions. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. Empire said, Pods, Dre, Looney, and GP2 are causing the Warriors to lose. Then Nick says, Jimmy and JK should have closed this game. I think more so Jimmy. I'm not sure. Like, Kaminga, I can't ask for too much more of Kaminga in this game. I really can't. Empire says closing and starting lineup should be Buddy, JK, Jimmy, Green, and TJD. No. Pods will continue to start. He's earned it. At least, from what he's done. I know he's been really poor the last few games shooting the ball, but yeah, I'm not. At least he will take threes. I mean, you can make the argument. I get it, but I think Pods is it's just one of those things you're going to have to continue pushing through him, I think. Steve says, free Kevin Knox. Don't think that's going to happen, although we did see him in game 2. Andrew the Goat says, thanks to Draymond Green for losing this game for the Warriors tonight. I am so done with Draymond. I thought offensively it was really poor. I thought defensively it was his normal terrific self. Unfortunately, that fourth, even the third foul, which I was like, really? Like, when I saw it live, I was like, surely you're reviewing that. That just looked like they were kind of tangled up and then Gobert pushed off. So that was a bit disappointing. And I just put that on the officials more than anything. And then the last 2 fouls, the fifth foul on Draymond was very unnecessary because it looked like Kaminga had an angle and he just didn't have to hold Randall, and obviously they challenged that. Like the challenges just went all Minnesota's way. They had 2 successful challenges, and then the Warriors one that probably should have been a successful challenge wasn't overturned. So I don't know. It's just again the swings and roundabouts of a game. Steve says Pods, Moody, GP2 don't see guys work on their offense in the off seasons. Nothing from these guys the last 4 games. Why is Knox not playing? He can at least score the ball. I just don't. Yeah. These are the guys. I mean, Moody was out of the rotate. I mean, he played a few minutes in the. What did Moody play? Like 3 minutes. 3 minutes 20. Post played 2.5. I was surprised when Post and Moody hit the floor in the first half. I was like, really? But otherwise, outside of that, it was just an 8-man rotation. Which is, I think, that's the 8 you're kind of going to have to live with. And even then, Trace only played 11 minutes. Looney played 18. Thought Looney was okay. He fouled out as well. But I thought some of his defense. I just thought when the Warriors had Loon and Draymond out there, they feel like a far greater defensive force. And particularly with Draymond, because he organizes everything. But credit to Kaminga. Kaminga, the only one positive +- +5. Everyone else was slightly in the negatives, but no one really stood out necessarily as a huge, even Pods didn't play well, but it was only a -2. Yeah, I mean, you got to, again, as I said before, Pods, GP2, Looney, Draymond combining 4 of 22 from the floor. It's tough. I always just says 5 turnovers in 29 minutes is crazy. He needs to step up. Like he needs to look back at this performance. And in fairness, we said this during the Houston series where I thought he was poor, and I kept saying like he's putting some pressure on himself to really bounce back. And he did in Game 7. I thought he was really good. I thought he was really good in Game 1 of this series. Last 2 games haven't been as good, albeit again, I thought his defense was there in this game. Mr. MRA Space says GP gives Ant a warm-up 3 in the 4th. His so-called defense has been questionable. Yeah, I mean, there's not too much difference. I want to give Buddy Hield some credit. I think Buddy's and GP2 said it on the mic as well that Buddy's really turning it up defensively and forced a turnover there late in the 4th quarter that gave the Warriors a slight opportunity. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel really. I don't mean for this to be kind of a down episode, but it kind of is. It's like it's probably the most heartbroken I've been, I think, after a game for a while. Because I'm not disappointed in the team. I thought they gave a real big effort. I'm just disappointed in the result, and just feels like a game they should have won. And if they'd gone up 2-1, you would at least get to a Game 6. You'd at least give Steph a chance. Now I'm just concerned that's not gonna happen. So I don't know. Just I feel genuinely devastated at this loss. And I rode the emotions of that game. Like I was yelling at the TV throughout. I was, couldn't sit still. It was just, and then to come away with the loss, it's very disappointing. This is kind of the roller coaster of a fan experience, I suppose. I mean, he says, sit that Pods guy down. All he does is bricklaying. More Spencer, less Podbricksky. Pods averaging 6 points this series. I just think he does more than score the ball. And in terms of impacting positively, I think we've always saw that. And that's what makes him a bit different to Moody. Moody, if he's not hitting his threes, if he's not giving you points, yes, he might give you some perimeter defense, but I just think he loses all confidence, or he has lost all confidence when his offensive game goes off the rails, and then he's just not really impacting for you in any other way. Pods, I think, is a bit different. I think he can positively impact without necessarily scoring the ball. Which is why you guys are saying bench Pods, playing less minutes. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to continue playing Pods for 35 to 40 minutes a game. I think that's what's going to happen. Mr. MRA Space said GP2 had 26 minutes and did nothing. Empire says it seems like TJD, Buddy, Jimmy, and Kaminga are the only people who can score against the Wolves. Credit TJD, made a couple of layups early in the game. Well, what was it? Jimmy and JK had 17 of the 21 points in the first quarter, and TJD had the other 4. So no one other than those 3 guys scored in the first period. And then Jimmy and JK had 30 of the 42, I think, at halftime. I think they had 48 of the 73 at the end of the third, and they end up with 63 of the 97. I actually don't think this is how the Warriors are going to win. So the Warriors put up 97 points. I know Pods was awful and Draymond was awful with the turnovers and stuff, but I kind of just expect this to be the Warriors are going to score around 100 points. I just, without Steph, I just find it, and Minnesota are decent defensively, obviously. I just don't see them putting up 115, 120 points. So this is the way the Warriors are going to have to win. I actually just thought the difference in the game was the defense. Once Draymond went out in the third quarter, that was the moment where Minnesota, again, 50 points through the first 30 minutes of the game, Draymond goes out. Suddenly there's less resistance on the interior, and they start to get going, and they start hitting some jump shots in the fourth, and they score 52 points in the last 18 minutes. To me, that's the difference in the game. It's not necessarily what the Warriors did offensively, because I just think this is what's going to happen without Steph, right? They're limited. There's, Pods might be better next game, but you know what? Kaminga's probably not going to give you 30, so that might even each other out. I don't know. We'll wait and see. Jethro says only Jimmy and Kaminga are shot creators. TJD is good in the pick and roll, but he can shoot if you set him up. The rest are just role players. Absolutely. PM says, is it bad to think this is over? Yeah, I'm pretty pessimistic after that. And actually, the way the game went, maybe I should feel a bit more optimistic, because I just genuinely think there's a path to the Warriors. There's a path to the Warriors winning this game. I just felt like the game for the majority was on their terms, kind of thing, in terms of really defensive style. Kind of what we saw when they beat the Rockets in the 4 games they beat the Rockets. Low scoring, half court kind of stuff. I actually think you kind of make it a half court battle, and I think Jimmy can kind of match Ant in that scenario and potentially outplay him. That's what kind of happened in the first 3 quarters. Few turnover issues, which were costly. So I just thought the Warriors, the game was kind of there to be won. The game was being played the right way for the Warriors to win, and just didn't happen in the end, which makes it feel like you could get to game 4 and the game could be completely on. It's not difficult for me to envisage game 4 being on Minnesota's terms, and that one just being a blowout loss, if I'm being honest. Now, hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully the Warriors can take game 4. But I think if I was a Minnesota fan, I'd feel pretty comfortable in that I don't think my team's playing well at all, and we're up 2-1. And obviously, the other team's without Steph Curry, one of the 10 best players in NBA history. Still one of the best 10 players in the league right now. So I'd feel pretty good if I was a Minnesota fan. Steve says Steve Kerr has cost the Warriors as much as Draymond. Can we get rid of Kerr at least? What did he do? For playing Pods too much? What's the complaints on Steve? Seriously. What are the complaints on Steve Kerr in this game? I just don't have any. I just thought the lineups were right. The right guys played. I don't know. I'm just confused about the Steve Kerr hating in this game. There are times where he makes mistakes, as the players do, that you can criticize. I just don't know what they were in this game. Please let me know, though. Empire says, I knew Ant would dunk on someone this series. I just thought it would be Post instead of Looney. That was a huge dunk in the third quarter. Then it says, Looney's been bad for 3 straight years. I actually thought he was okay in this game. I really thought he was okay in this game. I don't know. Yeah. You could look for an upgrade over Loon in the off season. Certainly. When you say he's been bad for 3 straight years, going back to the 2023 playoffs, so 2 straight years, because 3 straight years would be going back to the championship season. And what, are we just going to eliminate what he did to Sabonis in the first round of the 2023 playoffs? F2P says, I'm happy for JK, as am I. I'm just disappointed it ended in defeat, because then we'd be really talking about JK. Then next to 16 points off turnovers to the Wolves. F2P says, the Curry infatuation for Pods needs to be studied. I don't think we can win this series with Pods playing heavy minutes and Looney playing minutes over TJD. Look at the guys coming off the bench and tell me who like, who do you want to play more over Pods? So GP2 plays 26, and as people have said before, didn't do much. So I'm not sure he should be getting more minutes. Post, don't think so. Kaminga played 36. So even if you give him an extra 4 and you're giving him 40 as opposed to Pod's getting 40 and Pods gets 36 instead of Kaminga getting 36. Looney plays 18, different players. You want to play Moody over him right now? Like, what's Buddy plays 32-20? Do you want Buddy to be up near closer to 40 minutes? I just don't know what the answer is right now. Like, if Steph was here and Pods was playing like he is, sure, absolutely. I'm all for, okay, cut Pods down to like 25 minutes or something like that, 20, 25 minutes, or just see how the game is panning out. But without Steph, I don't know. I don't know how Pods can play less. Right? I don't know. FTP also says TJD is a better scorer and a better defender than Looney, but Kerr gonna Kerr. Is he a better defender? Is Trace Jackson Davis a better defender than Kevon Looney? I'm not convinced about that. Better scorer, yes. More athletic. I'm not sure he's a better defender. Then next says our defense has been impressive. We just suck on offense during some stretches of games. Absolutely. Virgin Fitness, miss bunnies. Why don't you folks discuss miss layups, 3-4, gimme shots, and miss putbacks? I mean, this team's been really bad at the rim for the entire season, so let's not be surprised. Right. It does hurt. Absolutely. I think Looney went 1 of 4, and I think that came from one possession where he missed a couple of putback opportunities. Yeah. But, even Jimmy missed some around the rim in this game. He was 12 of 26 from the floor. Maybe Jimmy can be better. And that kind of performance that we saw is sustainable. He can do that again and potentially be better. Obviously, particularly in the last 8 minutes, he can be better. Steve said, no knocks and more Pods, series over equals Steph Knight. Virgin Fitness says, if you did this in men's league ball, you got to make the bunnies. Michael says, more TJD, less Draymond. Well, I don't think that's the case. I think Draymond would have been, if it wasn't for foul trouble, Draymond would have been up 35, 36 minutes in this game. Empire says, Moody, Pods, GP2, and Looney have to be traded next season. They are too inconsistent. I don't believe they will be any different next season. GP2 and Looney are going to be free agents, so if they come back, it's going to be on much smaller deals than they're currently on. Moody, I could see as a trade candidate, just based on how these playoffs have gone. Pods, people got to remember with Pods, he's going to be going into year 3. He's still under team control cost-wise for another 2 years at very minimal money. You've got a starting caliber player, or even if you think he shouldn't be a starter, he's a 20-25 minute per game player at a minimum. Even if you're out on him, even if you don't like him, he's still capable of playing 20-25 minutes. To get that on a rookie deal, I think people got to start understanding just how valuable that is in today's age of the first and second tax aprons. And that's what makes him, like, once he comes off that rookie contract and he's going to be asking for $20+ million, then yeah, far less valuable. But right now, when you're paying Jimmy over 50, you're paying Steph 60, you're paying Draymond 25. Who knows what you're going to do with Kaminga now? Like, the Kaminga thing is just like crazy. I don't know what's going to happen with him now, because you look like a game like this where he goes for 30 and he's playing alongside Draymond. And it's funny, like Steve said in about a month ago that, well, Jimmy, JK, and Draymond can't play together. It just doesn't fit. Well, the last 2 games suggest it kind of does. Like, I know they lost by 24 the other day, but that group, that trio, had a 40.5 net rating in 11 minutes on the floor. They were, JK goes for 30 today, probably the best performance of his career. Like, he's saying that he can't play with those guys. Maybe it's more of a case that he struggles to play with Steph. I think that's maybe the biggest concern now with Kaminga, is that it's actually a Steph thing. And at the end of the day, Steph's a much better player than Kaminga, obviously. So it's not as if we're going to start having a discussion of, oh, well, should we actually pick JK over Steph? That's not going to happen. But you can see, like, without Steph, it's a little less player movement-y kind of thing. Like, there's less, focus on him and focus on trying to get him open and setting off ball screens and passing him the ball and just a lot less player movement, a lot less of a traditional, I suppose, NBA offense, which I just think Kaminga he just doesn't have to think about it as much. And therefore, when he doesn't think about it as much, he kind of just lets his natural talent take over. And he is a naturally talented player. And yes, he makes some mistakes, but I think some of those mistakes, when Steph's out there or whatever, they're kind of born from he's trying to make the right play. He's trying to be in the Warrior system, but he doesn't get it. He doesn't have the highest IQ, right? So you've got to kind of just make things a lot more simpler for him. And I think in a game like this without Steph, it's pretty simple. It's like, okay, you've got to go out and score. Like, you got to be our second guy. It's as simple as that. It's not Steph's out there. You got to set some off-ball screens. You got to get him the ball to take and make shots. It's you got to be the guy to put the ball in the hoop. It's simple for him. Okay. Also defensively, I just thought this was one of his better defensive performances as well of his career, and a lot of that was, he was guarding Ant for, GP2 was guarding him for a fair portion as well, but there are a lot of possessions where Kaminga's guarding Ant. And I've always said as well, when he's a point of attack defender and he's tasked with a main role on their opposing, one of their best opposing players, like, I think that's a lot easier for him than asking him to be an off-ball defender where he can kind of lose some concentration and focus, let a guy get a backdoor cut or let a guy get an open three or something like that. So I just thought much simpler role for Kaminga right now without Steph, and that's allowed him to thrive a little bit. PM says, bring my boy Post back again, stop playing GP2. Michael says, Draymond 2 straight garbage games. F2P says, yeah, Jimmy missed 4 easy layups. No complaints for Kerr. GP2 pods loony. Okay, so those guys played bad, right? I'm not sure how that's on Steve when who else are you playing instead, right? I'm sorry, the Kevin Knox stuff, I don't want to hear. Moody's not playing well at the moment, so I'm not sure you can go to him. Post isn't playing well at the moment, so you can't go to him. Like, I suppose, again, if you want to really delve into it, it's more of a Mike Dunleavy issue in terms of maybe there's not enough guys that you can truly trust in these situations, right? You can't fully trust GP2. You can't fully trust Pods, Loon, whatever, or you just want upgrades from those guys. Well, that's more of a roster issue to me than it is a coaching issue because I'm just not sure who the replacements are on the current roster. Steve says Steph needs to play game 4. There'll be no game 6. We all know it. Kerr should be blamed. Kaminga should have been in rhythm a long time ago. He'd been given the same opportunity as Pods. That's the one thing, I suppose, with Steve that you could point to is, okay, well, Kaminga goes for 30 in this game. How come we haven't had that? Or how come we haven't got anything out of him through the first round series against the Rockets and then through, obviously, the playing game and the regular season finale? That's a problem. Okay, that's a Steve Kerr thing. Happy to criticize him on that one. Absolutely. Some of the other stuff, less so. Steve also says, free Kevin Knox. Why did we sign him for? Certainly not to warm the bench. Could have gone with another big if that was the case. Kerr has too much input on the roster building. FTP says, Looney couldn't stop Randall nor Ant. TJD stopped Randall and Ant many times and rim protector. So, yes, better defense by miles. Looney looks like a cardboard cutout when Ant drives. I think I think we might agree to disagree on that one. I think Steve thinks that Looney is more trustworthy on the defensive end than TJD is. And I suppose that would be shown in the minutes. I mean, he says Warriors could have had LaMelo Ball instead of James Wiseman. I'd prefer Hallie. I'd prefer Tyrese Halliburton. He went pick 11 in that draft. The Warriors seemed to have a little bit of interest in him, but obviously didn't want to pick him that high at number 2. Because I'm not sure LaMelo is like a winning player necessarily. Now, maybe that's easier to say when he's on Charlotte, and Charlotte is just a mess. So it's hard for anyone to be a winning player in that system. But I think Halliburton's the guy that you look at that and you think he'd probably be a perfect fit in the Warrior system, Warrior team. Then next to Steph won't play game 4. We can't rush a hamstring. Who remembers the James Harden hamstring? He hasn't been the same since that. Yeah, he's not playing game 4. He's already been out or evaluated in a week, which is past game 4. It's like the day of game 5. He's not going to play game 5 either. It's game 6 at the absolute earliest, and I'd be surprised. Like he'd be rushing back for game 6. Let's put it that way. Jarman says, so should JK have been the 8th man off the bench? As in this game, because he was technically the 8th man off the bench. So he was the 8th in terms of the 8th man off the bench. He was the 8th guy to enter the game, but I don't really see it like that because the guy played 36 minutes, right? So he played the 3rd most minutes on the team. So I'm not really seeing him as the 8th guy off the bench necessarily. The DR8993 says the whole reason the Warriors got Jimmy was to have a second star next to Steph and to slot everyone else in their proper roles. Steph goes out and now everyone's roles are effed up again like before the trade. Yeah, I think I made that point after game 2. Joe says JK just needs to lead this team at this point. He makes mistakes because he's not free to play his game. It's not an IQ thing. It's playing his natural instincts. I agree with that. I'm not sure if he needs to leave the team. I'm just so conflicted on Kaminga in terms of why, and the Warriors would be. Like, if you're the Warriors, if you Mike Dunleavy, you're just like thinking to yourself over the last few weeks, well, I'm just not paying Kaminga more than $20 million a season. I'm just not doing it. If he gets an offer sheet more than that, I'm letting him walk. And then you see a game like tonight and be like, how can I let this guy who just went for 30 in a playoff game walk as a restricted free agent? I just can't. I'm just going to have to match anything that they offer him. What do you do? Like, it's a compelling case, and I don't know. It could go any which way. And that's the problem, is we've got to the end of the 4th year and we still don't know. Like, this could just be a flash in the pan game. The Warriors could sign him to 25 mil, and in 6 months or 12 months time, it could look like an absolute disastrous deal. And it could look like he's not worth that because, again, he's on the bench and he's playing 15 to 20 minutes a game max. The other thing is you could let him walk and he goes to another team. And what we saw in this game is just what he consistently does for another team. And he becomes a 25-point per game scorer. And then you look like an absolute idiot, right? So I don't know. This is it's almost why I think they probably have to re-sign him, or at the very least, they have to get pretty good value back in a sign and trade. But man, it's confusing. Empire says, I think Kerr has to start JK next game. We're going to need first quarter scoring. Only scoring 21 in the first is part of the reason we lost. Yeah, possibly. Jamie says JK. Sorry, you already said that. Pod's kind of trash though. Lol. Mr. MRA space. Pod, GP2 and Looney combined to play 83 minutes and 11 points. That's on Kerr. I hope you're being sarcastic. I actually hope you're being sarcastic. How is them playing 83 minutes and having 11 points on Kerr? Because who are playing those 83 minutes? Like, legitimately, who are playing those 83 minutes? I don't want to hear, I'm sorry, guys. I just don't want to hear Kevin Knox. Okay. Post, Moody. Who's playing? Pat Spencer? Gee? I don't know. Lucky Jelly says, oh, yeah, I forgot about Wiseman. He was one of the biggest busts as a second pick. We missed out on so much talent that could have been helpful in today's game. FTW Clan says, man, this was our best chance to force a game 6. Next game is going to be even harder. I feel like we could have won in 5 at most with Curry. Yeah. F2P says, putting up 30 points off the bench in a playoff game in itself is not normal. JK will get paid by a good team. Yeah, I agree with it. I just don't see how you couldn't be the Brooklyn Nets or something like that and think, hey, this dude just got a 30 in a playoff game. Like, that in itself, you can sell that to fans by itself. You can just say, regardless of what this guy's done in his first 4 years in the league, he just had 30 points in a playoff game. That in itself, you can sell to fans as this is why we paid the guy $25 million a year across the next 4 years or whatever. Mr. MRA space. Who let them play 83 minutes? Kerr did. Yeah, he did. What's the alternative? It's the thing, like, I just don't know what the alternative is. FTW Clan says, who else is Kerr supposed to play? I don't know. Steve says, I'm glad Kaminga is going to get his money. Kerr must be fuming. JK went off tonight. Totally undercut Kerr's reasons for not playing him. Glad. I did like they embraced after the game. I did enjoy that. It's really interesting to see, or to know. It'd be good to know kind of what the relationship is between those two, because I mean it's been a wild ride. It's been a wild ride. Anyway, guys, we've been going for 50 minutes. I'm going to finish it up there. Thanks to all of you that have tuned in, commented, watching on replay, listening via your podcast feed. Everyone that's been involved, thank you very much. FTW Clans is definitely not on Kerr. The Pods is our only garden shot 1 of 10. Yep. Lucky Jelly says Jimmy Butler good, but he's inconsistent in my opinion for his contract. One game he gives you 17 and one game 33. I was disappointed with him in game 2. Yes. I'm not sure he's inconsistent. I'd say that he has moments where he's passive. Yeah, possibly. But, I mean, he's got you this far. He's got you this far, and he gave you a legitimate opportunity to win this game. So I'm not sure how we can be too critical of Jimmy Butler, albeit he should have done a lot better in the final 8 minutes. Steve says, Kerr was a failure in Phoenix, got a ready-made team with the Warriors. He's overrated. Yeah, okay. The Dr. 8993 says, fans are so weird for manufacturing this Kerr vs. JK narrative, like Kerr vs. Tatum narrative, like you have no clue what you're talking about. Well, I mean, Steve is the guy that gives the minutes at the end of the day. And so I don't know if Kaminga's minutes and his role on the team, I don't know who else necessarily dictates that. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to finish it up, guys. Thank you very much again for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, that'd be greatly appreciating. Follow me at POC252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. We've got game 4 coming up on Tuesday. I'll be back for another post-game live. After that one, fingers crossed. Monday, I should say. Tuesday, my time. I'll be back for another post-game live. After that one, let's hope for a better result from a Warrior perspective. I think this game would show that the Warriors can certainly win. But the game's kind of got to be in their favor, and I thought it was for the majority, and they weren't able to capitalize. So I don't know. It's a disappointing result at the end of the day, even though there was a huge positive to take from it in the form of Jonathan Kaminga. Thanks again, guys. Hope to see you after game 4.